Welcome back to Cabarabia, my monthly rumination on all things relevant to the world of cabaret and the nightclub experience. Every program, I profile and interview the leading performers, composers, musicians, producers, and venue owners, all the people that bring you live performances in intimate settings. And welcome back. Welcome back to Cabarabia, the podcast. I'm so excited to be back with you after a bit of a hiatus. I've been doing this show for about 6 years at Global Voice Broadcasting, and about 6 months or so ago, they decided to close their studio. So I've been regrouping, and I got my pal Andrew Apple, who was my original producer, and now he's producing a whole new launch of the series, and I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled that this is our very first episode. So welcome. So happy to have you here. Today, I'm talking to a wonderful singer, a wonderful young woman named Katrina Aguilar. Do you have Katrina there? Hi, Katrina.
Hello.
Katrina's in her backyard in her home in San Diego on a beautiful summery day. Everybody can see a slice of Southern California life there. I met Katrina about, I guess it's probably going on about 2 years ago now. But over the last year, we have worked quite extensively on a beautiful show called Part of Your World. And Andrew, I think you have a graphic of the very first show poster. Katrina, you want to talk to us a little bit about what that show is?
This was a dream Disney show that I didn't realize would become so personal until we started constructing it. So we started to put together what each song meant. And so
I should mention, we're going to show a clip in a little bit where I talk about this more extensively, but Katrina is a person who was diagnosed on the spectrum of autism in her childhood. And it was her love of Disney movies, most specifically The Little Mermaid, that sort of reached into her and gave her a pathway to communicate. And she developed this love of singing and this tremendous talent for singing. And when we first got together to put this show together, she had already very much fully formed what she wanted to do and the songs she wanted to sing and why they were relevant to her. But as we started to actually construct the show, as she was just saying, all of the depth of how rich the story was and how much it reflected her life really came out. Andrew, there's another poster of a second time we did the show at the Oasis Learning Center in San Diego. So we've had a lot of, the first time we did the show, we just by happy accident and the help of our friend David Dooley, we got the San Diego Union Tribune to write a beautiful article, a front page of the entertainment section about Katrina, and right before the show, and it was, practically sold out and standing ovations, and I sobbed through the entire thing, and it was just a very, very happy experience. Katrina and I first met at Tim Moore's open mic at Hennessy's in La Jolla, down in San Diego way. And I was very taken with her. I just thought she was such a talented singer, and there was sort of a withdrawn kind of a mysterious kind of a mystique quality about her. So when I started talking to her, I learned a little bit about her background of the autism and all that, and we got we got to talking that she decided to take a cabaret class. She had taken another cabaret class with Eileen Bowman, I think, and then my friend Michael Levine and I, who is a teacher in New York, a musical director in New York, started doing classes out in LA at Martini's, which is a very cool club in San Diego. And Katrina took that class, and between me and Michael at that first session, the lights just came on in some magical way with Katrina. I'm telling you, she was the star of the class, and she just bloomed in front of our eyes. And when we had that first show at Martini's, people went crazy for her. She was the biggest ovation of the evening. Is there anything you want to say about that experience, what that was like for you?
Well, it was certainly a huge change of direction. From the time I was around 16, I had been training as a classical singer, and then I had gone on later to the Boston Conservatory, where I graduated as a vocal performance major, kind of on that one-way path. But then again, there was always a part of me that thought that wanted to do something else. I mean, I was always the kind of person that loved so many other styles of music, theater and theater, rock, I mean, jazz, etc. And somehow I kind of got to this point but then again, first, I meet Eileen at these open mics, and I went and took her class and gave it a go, and then, fell in love with cabaret, as it encompasses a whole lot, so you can express.
Right, and the storytelling. So I have a clip here. Probably the first big thing that we did together was I was having a show in LA at a very cool club called Rockwell, one of the more popular clubs in LA. And I invited Katrina to be in this evening. And it was an evening that had a lot of very prestigious performers in it. Like Artie Butler, who's a legendary producer. He produced What a Wonderful World, and he wrote the song Here's to Life, and Brad Ellis from the TV show Glee, and Kiki Epson, who's an amazing singer-songwriter, and just a full roster of amazing performers. And I'm telling you, Katrina blew everybody away. It was such a magical night. And so we have a clip from that I want to share before we go on. She's a wonderful singer, but she has a very interesting story. I'm going to just say this much about it. When she was a child, she was diagnosed with autism. And, that's a very isolating experience. So when I sat down and started talking to her about the show she wanted to do, she fully shared with me the most beautiful story about how she wanted to do a show of Disney music. Because as a child, it was Disney music that sort of reached into her and gave her a pathway out of herself and able to connect with other people. And she's an encyclopedia of all this music. And it's really been an incredibly inspiring and moving experience working with her. And tonight, I'm sure, is her debut in Los Angeles, right? And I'm very thrilled to share with you Katrina Aguilar.
Okay, thank you, Clifford, for saving me from falling on my face, which might have been funny to some of you. Anyways, seriously, Thank you so much, Clifford, for helping me put together this show. This is a bucket list item for me. And, you know, to put together my two passions, singing and Disney. And in speaking of which, this piece, this one has been extra special to me because, as he pointed out, this was how I initially learned to come into myself. The part of your world from The Little Mermaid. This piece was not only the first song I've ever learned to sing, or even the song that made me dream of becoming a mermaid myself. But this was about yearning for the seemingly unreachable, and when you grew up in the autistic spectrum, all you really wanted was to be loved and accepted as part of your world. Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything? Look at this trove, treasures untold. How many wonders can one cavern hold? Looking around her, you think, sure, she's got everything. I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I've got who's-its and what's-its galore. You want thingamabobs? I've got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. I want to be where the people are. I wanna see them dancing, walking around on those, what do you call them? Oh, feet. Flipping your fins, you don't get too far. Legs are required for jumping, dancing, strolling along down the, what's that word again? Street. Up where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun, wandering free. Wish I could be part of that world. As isolating as living with autism can be, years I've spent in missions have opened my eyes to what you might call real outcasts. So much I've seen. Families in Honduras abandoned and neglected by their own country. Children in the inner cities, parents with their parents lost to drugs and alcohol. Prisoners at Donovan's whose own families have written them off. And then there's people like me who are ostracized for the simple crime of being different. I don't know if you can hear me, or if you're even there. I don't know if you would listen to a gypsy's prayer. Yes, I know I'm just an outcast. I shouldn't speak to you. Still, I see your face and wonder, were you once an outcast too? God help the outcasts, hungry from birth. Show them the mercy they don't find on earth. Lost and forgotten, they look to you still. God help the outcasts. us, or nobody will. I ask for nothing, I can get by, but I know so many less lucky than I. Please help my people, the poor and downtrodden. I thought we all were the children of God. I don't know if there's a reason why some are blessed, some not, why the few you seem to favor. They fear us, flee us, they do not see us. God help the outcast, the tattered, the torn, seeking an answer for why they were born. Ills and misfortune have blown them apart. You made the outcast, don't cast them out. The poor and unlucky, the weak and the odd. I thought we all were the children of
Katrina Aguilar! Katrina Aguilar! That was so beautiful, Katrina. Ah, Katrina Aguilar, that was so beautiful. Oh, you were such a beautiful singer. You make me cry every time I hear you sing. I wanted to talk a little bit more this time. First of all, I want to just acknowledge the band from that clip. That was Michael Collum on piano and Kirsch on bass and Tombo on drums. And Katrina, I'd like to talk a little bit more about your background from when you first started to sing to your evolution, what various things you've done along the way leading up to Boston Conservatory.
Well, it all started when I was in 8th grade. On that first day of choir was when I initially discovered that I had a voice. And from then on, it was also the year I did my very first musical. So therefore, I kind of like to call that my sort of a renaissance time in my life. And from then on, I pursued musical theater quite a bit. I did shows with a local theater group, mainly called Arts Off Broadway. And from then on, you know, it was various choirs from high school through my community college. And then out of high school, I was part of a honor band and choir group called The Sound of America that toured 6 different countries, to try and name off the top of my head: France, Italy, Germany, Luxembourg, Austria.
Well, that sounds exciting. What was that experience like?
And it was, and I sang part of a solo group. But anyways, it was awesome. It got me my first taste of Europe, and I had a little bit of independence there because it was just me, you know, right out of high school. So
Wonderful. So now, Andrew, there's a picture of her in a maroon dress. So this is from a recital in Boston Conservatory, right? What led you to go there?
well, it was after a period of time at community college. I was kind of at a crossroads. Then I started applying for various different conservatories, and one of which was the great old BOCO, as we lovingly call it.
Mm.
And it was just like everything else, you know. I applied. It was like one of the two schools I made it into, and I didn't realize just how much more important those 4 years became to me. You know, I call it kind of, it was kind of a hospital for my voice, if you will. I mean, they
Mm.
helped build me back up to where later on I could do, you know, I could not only do more advanced, you know, classical material, but I could eventually go on to do musical theater and everything else quite a bit better than I did beforehand. So,
Well, one of the real blessings, I think, for both of us putting this show together was working with our musical director, Richard Morrison. Now, Richard was somebody you had crossed paths with, and when I asked you who you wanted to work with, he was the first name that you came up with. And boy, that was a match made in heaven, because you two are so simpatico. First of all, he knows the Disney Encyclopedia as well as you do, and he's such a charming, charismatic guy, and he's so brilliant. Tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you collaborating with Richard.
well, first off, I that workshop with Eileen was how I met Richard in the first place. And I mean, and working with him again throughout this whole workshop certainly did not disappoint. You know, he was probably one of the best people I've worked with, not only as a musician but as a person. And the fact that he also has a knowledge and passion for Disney really did wonders. And when I had, you know, I had some fun on certain, you know, one thing about my show is it encompasses a whole lot of various styles, some of which I may not, I either may not have touched on, or rarely, if at all. And with his help, I was able to have some sort sing just about all of it with a certain proficiency, as he is also a voice teacher and a vocal coach. So that was something that was a huge blessing.
Yeah, it was very inspiring to watch the two of you work together, because, first of all, you obviously had a real chemistry. You liked each other both so much. But he's very skilled, and you're very skilled, but he always knew how, well, if you do it like this or try it like this, he really brought out the polish sometimes. It was very impressive to see. So I have another clip. This is you and Richard this time at our first show. And I think the clip sets itself up. So here we go.
In desiring the unreachable, it is easy to turn to the wrong places and to the wrong people. Ariel, in her desperation and vulnerability, willingly gave up her own voice. And while it's easy for me to judge, I have effectively given up my own voice. Because for so long, I believed the true, poor, unfortunate souls who made it their business to tell me who I am and what I can and cannot do. And I took it in like it was gospel. I silenced myself by trying to hide my own condition as if it was a bad secret. Not anymore. You can comes a wave meant to wash me away, the tide that is taking me under. Swallowing sand with nothing to say, my voice drowned out in the thunder. But I won't cry, and I won't start to crumble. Whenever they try to shut me and cut me down, I won't be silenced. You can't keep me quiet. Won't tremble when you try it. All I know is I won't go speechless. 'Cause I'll breathe when they try to suffocate me. Don't you underestimate me, 'cause I know that I won't go speechless. Written in stone, every rule, every word, centuries old and unbending. Stay in your place, better seen and not heard. And now that story's ending. 'Cause I cannot start to crumble. So come on and try to shut me and cut me down. I won't be silenced. You can't keep me quiet. Won't tremble when you try it. All I know is I won't go speechless. Speechless, let the storm in. I cannot be broken. Yes, I won't live unspoken. 'Cause I know that I won't go speechless. Try to lock me in this cage. I won't just let me down and die. I will take these broken wings and watch me burn across the sky. Hear the echo saying, I won't be silenced. Though you want to see me tremble when you try it, all I know is I won't go speechless. Speechless, 'cause I'll breathe when they try to suffocate me. Don't you underestimate me, 'cause I know that I won't go speechless. All I know is I won't go speechless. Speechless.
It was so beautiful. Katrina, once again, I'm just sitting here bawling. We have been joined now by Katrina's father, and I'm going to say Katrina's wonderful father. We're filming this episode to be posted on Father's Day. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted Katrina to be my first featured guest as we started back up again. Carlos has been such an amazing support system to Katrina in my experience of him as I've been working with her and knowing her for the last couple of years. And
Thank you.
Both of her parents are wonderful. She has a great mom too, Margie. But Carlos is really a very omnipresent force in her life and pursuits. That's a great picture by a great photographer who's been doing some of our shows, Rex Sanchez. Grateful for the great pictures, Rex. So, Katrina, why don't you start by saying something about the role that Carlos plays in your life?
I don't think I can say enough about the role he's played in my life altogether. You know, I could probably be bold enough to say he's probably the most important person in my life. You know, with the support, how he truly understands me as a person, you know, even as an artist. It's just, you know, he's kind of my backbone, you know, as a father, as a friend, as he,
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And, I wanted to mention that Carlos and Margie also have a son, Katrina's brother, Nate, who's a musician in New York, also very talented and active musician in New York. And I've seen you be
We're
very
very proud of.
supportive of him as well. Recently engaged to be married to his now fiance. So congratulations for that. But Carlos, tell me a little bit about what experience has been for you. I mean, all the way back to the beginning, where you knew that Katrina was going to have some challenges from childhood, and then to see how she's just blossomed over the years. Tell us what that's been
It's
like for you.
it's a long story, but Katrina was our first child, and so when she had problems, we weren't sure what was wrong, what was going on, whether there was a problem. Because she was our first child, we had no experience. But as time went on, she did not speak until the age of 5, and she got diagnosed with as autism at the age of 4, and it was a challenge. And I look back and remember that one of my biggest concerns was, how is she going to live? How could she live a normal life as we move on, as she gets older, becomes an adult? So when Margie and I discovered that she had a singing voice, and talking to voice teachers and choir teachers, a very, very good singing voice, then it dawned on us that, well, maybe she might have a career in music. But along with that, she grew up a lot herself, from not speaking to the age of 5 to just growing on a regular basis to become just a good and beautiful person. So um, it has been a long journey for both Katrina and for us, but uh, obviously a wonderful journey. So when we hear Katrina go up and sing, and it is a very special thing to hear somebody who didn't speak till the age of 5 to graduate from a junior college and then drop Boston Conservatory, and then from there move on to, God willing, a budding singing career. It's such a blessing to see her after all this and see her grow through all these times.
It's
So,
been very
uh,
heartwarming for me to witness the not just the four of you in your nuclear family, but the community of friends that you have around you as well. One of the ways that I like to develop a show is I always have what I call salon performances or parlor performances, and I start by having a first presentation with a small amount of the show, maybe a half hour, and always tell everybody, so invite maybe 6 of your friends that are willing to go along the creative process with you, and it won't be fancy, we'll have nuts and sodas and it'll be in the living room, and just 6 or 7 people. And that first night that we did that at your house, we had like 35 people. It was practically it was a full house overnight because there were so many people that hearts were just filled with, oh, Katrina's gonna sing. We have to be there. Something's happening. It was so great. And that first show that we did it for an autism charity called the Autism Tree, right?
yes.
yes.
How did you get connected to them?
I had one of my close friends from the first church we went to. Her and I have gotten together over lunch, coffees, etc. And she would always talk about this organization with me. And so I heard a lot of awesome things about it and finally got to meet some people who are part of it. So I eventually wanted to do a show to support them. So
Yeah. So that first show that we did, the debut show, was a charity event for them. And then later on, after the Rockwell appearance, I asked my friend Kiki Epson, who's a performer I'm very taken with. She's one of my very favorite singer-songwriters. Coincidentally, she's Buddy Ebsen's daughter, which has sort of gives her a place in the celebrity world, but she's an extraordinary talent herself. And I said I want to do a show that's going to feature Katrina, and I'd like to do it for some kind of autism charity. And do you have any connection to that world? And she said, well, it's funny you mention it because one of my lifelong closest friends is a woman that's very, very, very active in the autism world. And that turned out to be a woman named Joanne Lara. And very sadly, actually, I'm going to be kind of moved by this. Very sadly, Joanne passed just days ago. And to what feels like to all of us very suddenly, we did that show in November of last year, right around Thanksgiving. She ran an organization called Autism Works Now, which is still going to function and still would love donations. And please look into that, Autism Works Now. And she was very committed to the idea that people with autism deserve to have a seat at the table, that the thing that she was most committed to was helping people create lives for themselves where they could participate in life. She was a big job giver. She ran a pie company called Glorious Pies, where she had a lot of people with autism working, making the pies and selling the pies and delivering the pies, and because she felt that a paycheck was a very important thing to create normalcy in a person's life. And she was just a very beautiful woman, and it was a complete shock. Evidently, she had been battling cancer for a while. The people closest to her knew that, but a lot of us further away weren't aware of it. And it was actually Carlos and called me and said, "Did you hear that Joanne had passed?" And it was just heartbreaking. I'm still very emotional about it because it was such a loss. She was an incredible spirit. Anyway,
she really was a big legend throughout the autism community. We heard through people from Autism Tree, so here in San Diego. So she's a legend in working with autism.
Yeah, that's what Kiki had told me. And they had been like friends since they were in their 20s or something. And she saw Joanne's life turn into her devotion to autism. And so it was a very special evening. And, you know, I'm a very prolific producer. I produce lots of shows. I do usually in ordinary circumstances, I do at least 3 or 4 big things a month usually. And and I've been doing it for over 40 years. And I can honestly say it's that event was like one of the top 10 most memorable shows I've ever had. We had an extraordinary cast: Terry Woolman and Melanie Taylor, and the legendary Corky Hale, who's married to Mike Stoller, who was the famous songwriter Lieber and Stoller, who wrote every famous American song in the world: Stand By Me, Jailhouse Rock, I'm a Woman, and Julie Sussman on sax, and Stefan Oberoff, who's a brilliant, brilliant musician. And it was just an extraordinary experience. And it was and every single person in the show said it was one of the most memorable things they ever did. But anyway, so when we were promoting that show, Joanne arranged for us to make an appearance on Shannon Pendrick's Autism Live. And that is an amazing organization. It is so well organized. This woman has a communications base that I'm sure is international. And Katrina got to go there and be interviewed, and so I wanted to show a little bit from that day.
Now, Katrina, you identify as being on the spectrum.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us if you feel like that's given you any special advantages?
Well, I would say that, the challenges I faced growing up became my advantages that I express through my art
Right.
and performing. And as for that, it's also, it's opened more doors when it comes to music. It gave me my Disney show.
Yeah.
It gave, I've been speaking on it. I'm here.
Right.
So.
Right.
Amazing. How does it feel for you? Do you get nervous when you're performing, or how does it feel when you're performing?
Well, you're more, honestly, you're a little more nervous beforehand.
Okay.
It's beforehand when you're shaking, but once you're standing up there, and once you get into the song, and provided you're fully prepared and everything, it's like it's fun, and it's you're just up there, and it kind of dissipates.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I've heard a lot of performers say that, even if it's that they have a headache, they get up and they perform and the headache goes away. We know that Spencer Hart has come and said, she's a singer too on the spectrum, and she says, when I sing, the autism goes away.
Right.
We're friends and fans of Kobe Bird, and Kobe has a stutter, but when he performs, when he's an actor
doesn't
playing a
have it.
role,
Yeah.
no stutter. It's sort of fascinating.
That's
Do you
kind
find
of
that?
absolutely. As you probably might have noticed, I stutter a little
I haven't
bit.
heard you
I well, normally I do,
Okay.
but when I'm up there singing, it's different.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. I definitely feel more confident than I am,
Yeah.
talking to most.
You get in the zone.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
And, speaking of which, it's kind of interesting you bring up, a headache going away once you're on stage. When I was at BOCO taking an acting class, our teacher talked about something that happens in theater of all things, and they even have an interesting name for it. But you could be so sick, but all of a sudden, once you're on that stage, it's gone. They call it Mr. Fortlights. Mr. Fortlights came to visit you, didn't he?
Oh, how interesting.
And I think I might have had something like that happen, like when I did youth theater. When I did The Music Man, and I was Mrs. Peru. I had a severe bout of laryngitis. But once I was up there and once I was on stage, granted, I wasn't 100% by any stretch, but I was still able to go through my whole thing, and no one out there knew the difference.
So I am dedicating today's program to Joanne Lara. Over the last year, in addition to the full-length shows we've done, I've also had Katrina make appearances in a few different things. So one of the things we did what I call Clifford Bell and Friends, and we did that at the Oasis with our friends David Dooley and Carol Whitener. And then I don't know if you can show Giving Thanks again if you want, Andrew. That was the Kiki show for Autism Works Now. And then, let's see. Oh, and then in La Mesa, California, Katrina did a holiday celebration. And it started out to be sort of classical, but Katrina's very eclectic. She has a lot of different styles and feels to her. So it was, and that was super fun. They do a really nice job there. They drop fake snow from the ceiling, and in the outdoor courtyard. And then also at Feinstein's in LA, we also did a holiday cabaret that starred Andrea Marcovici and Artie Butler and Lois Burgon and Carrie Powell and David Lucky and a bunch of people you may or may not know, Jane Kinsey, and that was a very magical event as well. Katrina got to work with my friend Brad Ellis, Brad is a super nice guy. Brad, has been a Broadway musical director and a very accomplished arranger and producer for many, many years. But about 10 years ago, he fell into the weird, quirky experience of being an on-camera character on the TV show Glee. So he was Brad the pianist, which if you're a fan of Glee, is kind of an ongoing character that is frequently involved in the show, in the songs and everything. And I go places with Brad, and I'm telling you, he's so famous. Everybody stops him on the street from Glee. It's so funny what TV exposure will do. But anyway, so Brad is a very, very high-end, very accomplished musician, and he was blown away by Katrina. He thought she was so amazing. He loved working with her. What was that experience like for you, Katrina?
Oh man, I mean, he's one of these musicians where it's completely unfair to compare him to much of anyone else I've worked with, both in the cabaret and classical. He's just that incredible. It's like, I'm flattered that he even liked me, because I could not. Oh man, it's just like you've said on multiple times, the guy's a virtuoso pianist, and just what more can I say? The guy was incredible, and I'm honored to have been able to work with them twice, and hope to in the near future.
Yes. So. Actually, I had asked Brad the first time at our November show before he had met you, and as I recall, both of those shows were daytime things. We did them, which meant an early load in for sound check and everything. And Brad's a star, and you don't over ask favors from somebody like Brad. And after he had done the November show, I was very skittish about asking him to do the December show. And when I told him that it would be playing for you, he said, "Oh, of course, I would love to, be happy to. I'd be thrilled." Awesome. So at this point, we're going to say goodbye to Carlos. Carlos, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And happy Father's Day to
everybody
you.
who's watching, all the parents who are watching.
And we're going to go to a clip of Katrina and Brad doing Poor Unfortunate Souls.
Among millions of things Disney was good at, because come on, Disney. If they knew how to do one thing, it was how to make a damn good villain. My dear sweet child, that's what I do. That's what I live for. To help poor, unfortunate merfolk like yourselves. Poor souls with no one else to turn to. I admit that in the past I've been a nasty. They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch. What rhymes with witch? But you'll find that nowadays I've mended all my ways, repented, seen the light, and made a switch. True? Yes. And I fortunately know a little magic. It's a talent that I always have possessed. And my dear lady, please don't laugh. I use it on behalf of the miserable, the lonely, and depressed. Pathetic, poor
dinner. This one wants to get the girl, and do I help them? Yes, I do. Those poor unfortunate souls, so sad, so true. They come flocking to my cauldron crying, "Spouse, Ursula, please," and do I help them? Yes, indeed. And it's happened once or twice. Someone couldn't pay the price, and I'm afraid I've had to break them across the coals. Oh, I've had the odd complaint, but on the whole, I've been a saint to those poor unfortunate souls. Now, here's the deal. I'm going to make you a potion that will turn you into a human for 3 days. You got that? 3 days. Now, listen, this is important. Before the sun rises on the 3rd day, you've got to get dear old Princey to fall in love with you. That is, he's got to kiss you. But not just any kiss, the kiss of true love. If he does kiss you when the sun rises on the 3rd day, you'll remain human permanently. Disgusting, if you ask me. But if he doesn't, you'll turn back into a mermaid, and you'll belong to me. Life's full of tough choices, isn't it? Oh, and there's just one more thing. We haven't discussed the subject of payment. You can't get something for nothing, you know. I'm not asking for much, just a token, nearly a trifle. You won't even miss it. What I want from you is your voice. That's right, sweet cakes. No more talking, singing, zip. You have your looks, your pretty face. Now don't underestimate the importance of body language. Ha! The men up there don't like a lot of blabber. They think a girl who gossips is a bore. But here on land, it's much preferred for ladies not to say a word. After all, dear, what is idle prattle for? Come on, they're not at all impressed with conversation. True gentlemen avoid it when they can, but they dote and swoon and fawn on a lady who's withdrawn. It's she who holds her tongue who gets a man. Come on, you poor unfortunate soul! Go ahead, make a choice. I'm a very busy woman and I haven't got all day. It won't cost much, just your voice. You poor unfortunate soul! It's sad, but true. If you want to cross a bridge, my sweet, you've got to pay the toll. Take a gulp and take a breath and go ahead and sign the scroll. Flotsam, jetsam, now we got her, boys. The boss is on a roll. You poor unfortunate soul!
Katrina Aguilar. Katrina Aguilar. That's always so disturbing to me because, usually we have Katrina being, poignant and heartfelt, but I think her favorite thing to do is to play the villain, right?
Yeah, it's always fun.
Always fun. Anyway, we're coming to the end of our show. Thank you so much for being with us here today. First of all, I really want to thank my friend, as I said, Andrew Apple. All of this is possible today because of Andrew Apple. And so thank you. And I'm really so happy to relaunch my show. And Katrina, I'm thrilled that you were my first guest on my first new show. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And I'm going to I have 3 more lined up that I know for sure. In July, I'm going to do a feature about a small production company, a family-owned production company. Friends of mine, Jack Messenger and Lois Burgon. Lois is a wonderful singer that I've been working with for probably more than 15 years, probably. I should stop and think about when that is really, but for a long time. And they live a very creative life down in Manhattan Beach, a beautiful area in Manhattan Beach. And they've taken the opportunity to have the hiatus that's been caused by the COVID situation to present some productions online. And so far they did a reading of Superior Donuts last month. And this weekend they're doing Love Letters. And on July 31st, they're doing a reading of a play that Jack wrote called Thoughts and Prayers. And Jack was, overcome with anger and grief about our gun violence situation. And he sat himself down and wrote this play and produced it twice. And it's actually very good. And they're going to do a reading online of it on July 31st. So we're going to do a podcast with the people involved in that and talk about new stuff productions and thoughts and prayers. And then in August, I want to celebrate the 31st anniversary of my favorite charity, Project Angel Food. I am an enormous fan and devotee and committed worker to the wonderful Project Angel Food. It is a food service organization that was started 31 years ago. By Marianne Williamson and several people. It was originally a response to the AIDS crisis, but when everybody was wondering what can we do in these horrible times, they decided that people need food. If nothing else, people need food. So, and 31 years later, I think it's 1,200 meals a day. I never get the statistics right, but it's phenomenally impressive. And so in August, we'll do a tribute to them. And then in September, I had an amazing experience last November. When I was coming out of college and moving to LA, the most prestigious nightclub in the city was the Backlot at Studio One. And it was the place. I mean, Cheetah Rivera, Bernadette Peters, Roseanne, all the important nightclub people played there. And I was a young singer, and I caught on there. I was popular there, and in these very invitational open mics that Sam Harris would be at, and Julie Brown and Rosie O'Donnell. I mean, all pre-fame, and it was an amazing scene. And that building has been scheduled for reconstruction. There's a whole new land development going on in West Hollywood over on that corner. But my filmmaker friend, Mark Saltarelli, has been making a documentary produced by Mark and Lloyd Coleman and Gary Steinberg and Chris Isaacson called Studio One Forever. And Bruce Valanche is in it, and Melissa Rivers is in it, and I'm in it, and it's so excellent because it talks about the paradise that Studio One was in the 70s, and then how the world changed with the visitation of AIDS, and it's a very compelling story. And I've seen most of Mark's documentary, and it's so moving, and I can hardly wait for it to come out. So we're going to do a feature about that in September. And before we say goodbye, this has been such a strange time, right, Katrina? It's like, for anybody who's watching this just whenever, we're 3 months into the coronavirus shutdown, and actually this is the first time I've had real pants on in 3 months. It's the first time I got in a car and went someplace in 3 months. It's a very big day. We all wore masks over here. But Katrina, what's that been like for you?
Well, lifestyle wise, it's pretty much the same. I go to work every day and I come home. The only difference is, I mean, are the many new sets of rules that were added into the workplace.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in a sense, everything's changed, yet nothing, you know?
Yeah. And one of the things that you're probably not as aware of as I am, because you were sort of just starting to get into the heavy performance schedule, but we can't do shows, and it's so depressing because we were really on a roll, and even through March and April, we had March and April and May, I had great shows lined up that Katrina was going to be featured in at Feinstein's and at Catalina Bar and Grill and at Rockwell, and it was just so heartbreaking to have all those shows just evaporate one by one by one by one. And we're all waiting around to find out when we can get back on stage. So I look forward to that. But until we do, at least I get to see your face for a minute and hear your music, Katrina. It's a huge pleasure. We're going to leave the people with one more clip of music. And thank you for being here. And everybody, thank you for watching. And keep watching, I hope. And take care. Be safe.
When I was a little girl, my father used to say, if ever trouble troubles you, just dream your cares away. A dream's a wish your heart makes when you're fast asleep. In dreams you will lose your heartache. Whatever you wish for, you keep. Have faith in your dreams, then someday the rainbow will come smiling through. No matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on believing, the dreams that you wish will come true. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. So glad you're here. From the classics of long ago, from my childhood renaissance to the modern, this is to commemorate all things Disney, which has inspired so much of my life and imagination. Oh, I remembered when my father and I, he taught me how to play with my imagination. And we would play games, we would make up stories, and when life hurt, which it often did when you lived on the spectrum, your dreams and imagination was how you got through. Have faith in your dreams, then someday your rainbow will come smiling through. No matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on believing, the dreams that